Ephesians 5:15, ready? Look carefully then, so circle look carefully, how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use, circle best use, of the time, circle time, because the days are what? Evil. Make the best use of your time because the days are evil. So we're in a series called Go and Be, and it's the idea that God wants us to be like Jesus in every situation. So this whole series is about super application. How can I actually literally go and be Jesus in every scenario of my life? And I'm going to talk about something that's going to hurt your feelings probably, but I do it because I love you. It's kind of like when parents spank their kids, like, this is going to hurt me worse than it hurts you. That's actually never true, but actually it's something that we say because we want our kids to get better. And so we know we have to do this as responsible parents. And that's kind of the way I view today. And it's this idea. We live in a culture where we can stay in fantasy land our whole lives. Online with our thumbs, online with a mouse. We can literally live in a world that doesn't exist. So what I want to do is I want to talk to all of us about this particular reality. Listen to me. You can literally waste your life and not do the things that God has built you to do if you don't focus on one particular thing, and it's this: industriousness. That God expects you to do something with what he's given you. Industriousness is, what do I do with the gifts and talents I have? In our culture, you and I have been trained that if things aren't working out for us, or we don't really feel like doing something, that it's okay for us to not go do something. So it's kind of like #OurTruth, right? It's like, what's true for me right now is I just don't feel like doing anything. And so somehow that excuses me from not going in and being something for God. The Bible speaks to the exact opposite of that it doesn't matter how you feel, it only matters what you're doing for God. So let's look at it. If you got these, you got your notes? They're in the back stands there if you didn't get them. But the first one is this: how I want to be lazy. How I want to be lazy. So for a lot of us, it's going to hurt your feelers because we have grown up, we've grown up in a culture of laziness. And you may be surprised by that because you're like, I'm busy all the time. I want you to think how oftentimes you are actually busy in doing something of value rather than just doing something of business. Because you'd be amazed if you just shut your phone off. I know this is going to be like treacherous for some of you to even think about this, but literally shut your phone off and put it in a drawer and leave it there for a week. Literally don't get online other than if you need to check emails for business. If you didn't get online and you put your phone away, you would be amazed at how you are habitually and addicted to technology. Not for anything that's industrious, but literally just to entertain your mind. Because here's what's happened in our culture, is we have trained our minds to want to be continually entertained by videos online, by cats swinging around on a fan, which is awesome, by the way. By the way, if you're offended by cat jokes, you're not going to like this church either, because there's a lot of cat jokes that happen here. But understand this: we have been entertained almost to death. So let's look at this. Ready? How do I want to be? Lazy. I want somebody else to do the work for me. I want the government to pay my bills. I want the president to rip a check and go, hey, here's my money. So I want somebody else to take care of me, rather than using the physical abilities and mental abilities God has given me to do something good in the world, for the community, for this church, for my family, for God. All people are mortal creations whose span of life is only known to God. So this might surprise you, but you're going to die. I know, surprising. You're like, no, is it true? Yeah, it's true. And that's not a thing where you look at it and you go, oh, that's a morbid thought. It's a reality check. And it's for this reason. God knows the day you will die. And listen, God has already ordained that moment. In other words, you're not going to live forever. I might die of a heart attack tomorrow. I might live to be 85 and die on a bed at home with my grandkids all around me. I don't know what the future is. Those things are hidden from me by God. But this I can tell you, God knows when you will die, and he will allow you to die. You will not die before God allows you to die. And that might surprise you too, because you're like, no, I could go kill myself. I could go jump off a building. I could put a gun in my mouth. Understand this. People have done those things and survived. And they are worse off than if they wouldn't have done those things. So listen to me. You can't even control literally when you will die. If God wants you alive, you will stay alive. And you may suffer the consequences of making poor choices, but the point is, your life is held in the hands of God. So that should promote a little bit of fear of God in you, number one, and it should also promote soberness about how you live with only a finite amount of days you're allowed to live. Because you're heading to God. Listen to me. You're heading to God, and God expects a return on the investment he put in you. In the same way that if you get on the stock market and you go, I put $20 on Apple or whatever, because that'll only buy about nothing as far as Apple stock goes, but you put money into something and you go, I expect an investment. In other words, nobody invests going, I expect to lose. I expect to just give my money to the stock market and give it to other investors. No, you try to make the best choice you can with the money you've got to try to make money. In the same principle is true of God. He has given you gifts and abilities that he expects a return on his investment. He doesn't expect you to have mental faculties and physical abilities for you to go, I'm just going to do what I want in life. So laziness is an aspect of selfishness. I don't want to serve God. I don't want to serve a church. I don't want to serve my wife. I don't want to serve my kids. I am going to be all about myself. God designed living, what we're doing right now, literally right now, to involve using your time to be industrious rather than wasting it being lazy. I love this word, or a sluggard. What a great word. We need to bring that word back. That's like an old English word they put in the King James. And it literally means this. Like if you've ever taken your dog for a walk at night, because I take Samson, our dog, for a walk at night usually, and we'll be walking on the sidewalk, and it's amazing how at night all of the slugs and snails come out. I don't even know why I'm doing this, but this is what a slug does. And I'll be watching these slugs, and if the dog's, peeing or whatever he's doing over in the grass, I'll be watching these slugs. And literally the slug will move so excruciatingly slow that he's in peril because my dog's gonna eat him or step on him. And I'm like, move along, like get off the sidewalk. It'll take him 8 hours, it'll take him all night to slime his way across the sidewalk. Literally, I can take a walk across the sidewalk, but because how God has designed him, it takes him forever, putting himself in peril because of how slow he is. And it's a picture of this. If the slug, was able to have legs and move quicker, he would be able to save himself. But because of the way God designed him, it's a picture of if you waste your life, if you are a sluggard, if you don't use the gifts you've got, it's a picture of how humanity could be if you're lazy. You don't have to be that way. The snail has to be that way because that's how he's built. But it's a picture for humanity to go, I could literally waste my life like that. That's what the word sluggard means. It means to be a slug. It means to be slow. It means to underachieve. Look at Proverbs 6. So turn to the middle of your Bible. If you turn to the actual middle, you'll end up in Psalms. It's the book right after Psalms. Proverbs 6, verse 6. Underline this in your Bible. Proverbs 6:6. If you struggle in this area or you got some teenagers at home, this will hit you. Proverbs 6:6. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Why should we go to the ant? Consider her ways and be wise. Without any chief or officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. So if you've ever had ants, dude, those babies are relentless. You want to talk about like hard working, like examples of hard working as opposed to a slug? If you've ever, so I believe that Temecula Myriad is built on an anthill. And they're coming. Like, right, it hasn't gotten hot enough yet. You wait till it gets about $1.05 around here, and every ant in Temecula is going to come wandering in your house looking for something. And they're relentless. I mean, you literally have to go kill them to stop them from their mission. And what the proverb writer is saying to us is, hey, are you lazy? Are you underachieving? Hey, go look at the ant. They don't even have a supervisor. They don't even have somebody going, hey, get your stuff done. They don't have anybody with a whip going, hey, get your work done with. They don't have anybody over them going, take care of this business. Guess what? They're self-motivated. They don't need mommy coming along going, son, go to work, 28-year-old young man. You don't need your mommy. You don't need a supervisor yelling at you. You don't need your boss getting in your face going, I'm going to fire you if you don't get your act together. You don't need that. Because if you have a view of using your gifts for God, you'll work hard no matter where you are. So go to the ant. She doesn't have a supervisor. She works hard. Take her for an example. You don't need somebody to baby you along. Man, go handle your own business. Verse 9. How long, this is actually something you can give your teenagers. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. And poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. So here's the idea. Industry, doing something with your gifts and skills, always has value. Doing nothing always has no value. So, ready? Here we go. You might be at a job you hate. Let's say you're at Acme bolt making, and you put the nuts on the end of bolts or whatever, and you got a PhD in astrophysics. And but you're putting these bolts on, you're like, I am mind-numbingly bored, and I absolutely hate this job. I'm underpaid, I'm under everything. And here's the thing, here's what happens. It's better to do work and make a minimum wage to have something to show for your labor than to go, I'm not gonna work there because that's below me, and not be able to eat. And have your wife go, when the lights are flickering, how are you? That's below me. I don't put bolts on things and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what, sweetie? We're gonna be eating bolts if you don't start going to work. So here's the thing. Industry, being industrious, doing something with your talents and who you are, always has payoff when you do something of value. Laziness says, sluggardliness says, I'm gonna wait for something better. I'm gonna wait for blah, blah, blah. Nope. You go do something, here's what happens. You work hard at a job you're not really excited about, Bolt Land. You're at Bolt Land and you're like, I really hate this job. I really hate it. Guess what? If you work as unto the Lord and do excellent work, you'll be amazed how God brings blessing into your life. Maybe you find a new job. Maybe you get promoted out of that position you don't like. And here's another thing that might happen, is you're with Johnny, who works next to you on Bolt Line or whatever, and he's like, man, we need to get out of this place. I'm gonna make Bolt Land 2, and it's gonna be better. I'm gonna start my own business. Well, guess what? When Johnny steps out of that business and starts Bolt Land number 2, and he's like the president, guess who he's not gonna hire if he's worked alongside you and you've been lazy for 5 years? But guess what? You've been busting your butt and he knows it and everybody recognizes, man, you're a hard worker. When he becomes president, guess who's gonna be the VP? And you're gonna step out of Bolt Land and you're gonna be VP driving a Ferrari, watching other people put bolts together. And the point I'm making is this: industry always has value. Laziness always has zero. Here's a principle. Here's the principle of laziness. Laziness is the state of underachieving with God-given physical and mental resources. You wanna know what laziness is? That's what it is. It's when you underachieve with what God has given you. You don't use your mind for God's glory. You don't use your physical body for God's glory or to bless anyone else. Laziness says, I might get around to it, but that day never comes. Laziness isn't the same as rest. Ready? I'm gonna help you, because some of you guys are workaholics, and so when I say some of these things, you think, oh man, you're saying I need to work more than 80 hours, like I gotta keep on grinding. So understand this, I'm gonna make a distinction, I want you to understand. If you work too much, here's how you know if you work too much. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna run on a rabbit trail, we're gonna catch a rabbit, okay? Here's how you know if you work too much. Because some of you workaholics will hear this and you go, man, I just need to work harder. Nope. You know you work too much if you don't have any energy mentally or physically for your wife or your kids or to do stuff around the house, or you don't have any energy or ability to help at the church. If you stress out by going, it's my only day off and I just want to drink and watch football, then understand this, then you work too much or you're not processing the way you're working correctly. Because God has built you to rest. And when you when you rest after effort, you feel satisfaction. And if you rest correctly, you should have time and energy for your wife, for your family, for the church. You should be able to help. Because life shouldn't be all about work. But here's the other side of it. Laziness says, I want to feel satisfaction, but do nothing. So laziness isn't the same as rest. Rest is, I worked hard, I feel satisfaction. Laziness says, I did nothing, but I still want to feel good. So watch, rest and laziness are not the same thing. Rest is the reward of work. Laziness is the reward of nothing, which gets you nothing. So rest is good, and you should rest. If you work hard, it's that feeling you get when you get in bed and you go, man, I put some bolts on stuff. Praise God. And you lay in bed and you go, or you just clean the house. And you're like, I know roaches aren't going to land on my baby tonight because I cleaned the house. And you lay in bed and you go, if you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever, you just go, man, I feel like I did my part to help the home, to help my husband, to honor God with the gifts and abilities God's given me. Like it's that feeling of satisfaction. But here's what happens. When you're lazy, you want to still feel that feeling of satisfaction because you're built that way from God. But because you haven't done anything, it's a false sense of like you've done something, but you've really done nothing. So what you do is you live in fantasy land with your thumbs or the mouse. And at the end of the day, you've actually done nothing, but you've been entertained all day. But that doesn't give you satisfaction. Entertainment doesn't give you the same satisfaction that effort does. Amen. Rest is the reward of effort. Laziness is the absence of effort. Jesus is calling right now about this, so some of you guys need to listen up, okay? So listen, here's the thing, gambling, video games, and hobbies like social media, home brewing. Anybody home brew in here? Got any home brewers? I don't mean like pot plants, but like home brewing? Anybody? I had a couple of home brewers in the last service. If you home brew and it's good, kick some down to your pastor, okay? So, home brewing, sports. I love sports. Fishing. Listen to me. I'm gonna drop a bomb in some of your guys' lives. Listen to me. Having a hobby is not the same as having industry. Hobbies will waste your time if you haven't correctly used hobbies inside of your own industry. So you've been industrious. So hobbies can be a part of your rest, but here's what happens. Laziness says, I don't really want to do anything, so I'm gonna chase my hobbies. But because hobbies don't pay the bills or anything else, then now watch, you feel like you're doing something because it's stuff you like to do, but it actually has done no good for your family, has done no good for the church, has done no good for our country, has done no good for God. But you just did some stuff with your hobbies. Now listen, I poke fun of video games a lot, but we got a guy in this church that literally makes six figures online gaming. So hey man, if you can make six figures online gaming, just tie it to the church and we'll call it good. Man, that's fantastic. So listen, in our church, we got some professional gamers and they get paid to do those kinds of things, which is fine. If you can, that's industry. You're doing something, you're feeding your family, you're blah, blah, blah. You're supporting your church. So I'm not poking at these things. You could have a fishing business and that's how you make your living. But my point is, if that's a hobby for you and you're not making any money on that, you're wasting your time in hobbies rather than being industrious. Feelings produced by entertainment shouldn't be confused for satisfaction produced by industry. Industriousness seeks to be useful to God, but laziness finds a way to be useless to anyone. Woo! Here's a problem. Ready? We've done a really poor job in helping our young people understand industriousness. Because a lot of our youth are overmommed and underdadded. So let me help you. I'm gonna dad you up for a second, because some of us grew up without dads. So dad's coming home for a second. Okay, ready? Listen to what I'm saying. Don't expect everything you do to feel good. There will be many times you do things that you go, I don't like this. This doesn't feel good. I want to leave. We have built a culture of bailers. Hashtag my truth, okay? Like, because this is true for me, then I should be able to do this. It gives me the excuse to bail. It gives me excuse to do something else. My encouragement to you young people, or those of us who grew up without dads, or somebody who really step into our lives and go, stop that, is this. Work hard with the gifts God has given you. God will bless your hard work. God will not bless your laziness. God will not bless your hobbies. Hobbies are good when they're part of your rest. Hobbies are not legitimate work. Unless you're getting paid, which would then qualify as a job, hobbies are not things to spend your energy on if they're not supporting you, your family, the church, or honoring God. Everybody see the difference when something's a hobby, when it's work? Okay. So listen, for many of us that didn't have dads, let me encourage you. Don't quit. Go through tough times. Be a man or a young lady of God. And God will bless you. Oh, we got some moms up in here clapping their hands, putting it together. Okay, listen to me. Listen, laziness is good for nothing. Hobbies are good for nothing. Unless it's part of rest. And rest comes from effort. That's how it works. And you'll feel satisfaction because you're like, I did something. That feeling of like pride and satisfaction, that's a gift of God. That's a result of effort. And that brings up this. Here's your laziness cycle. And some of you guys might find yourself in this cycle, so let me show it to you. This is how laziness looks in all of our lives. So we start out with a lack of motivation. You know what the word sluggard means in the Hebrew? So your Old Testament's written in Hebrew, and Proverbs is part of your Old Testament. You know the word sluggard, like go to the ant, you sluggard? The Hebrew word literally means a guy that leans. So it's kind of like, I'm going to poke fun at like guys on the side of the freeway with the orange vests on, okay? You see guys like leaning on a shovel or whatever, and there's like 14 guys to dig a hole that one guy's actually digging, like that kind of thing. So it's the idea that sluggard means a guy who leans on a wall. He has the ability to go to work, but he would rather make excuses that something's not right than man up and go handle it. I'm going to lean up against this wall because this feels better for me to do this than it actually means to go to work. That's what sluggard means. That's the Hebrew word that means just a guy that leans against the wall and does nothing. Here's your laziness cycle. So you have a lack of motivation, which everybody does at dark 30 when they get up in the morning, right? Like right when that alarm goes off, like, oh, Jesus, come back, right? So watch. Everybody has a lack of... Okay, some of you guys are with me now. Okay, good. So listen, everybody has a lack of motivation at certain times in their life. Everybody, right? Here's the way you fight that. Or this is the cycle you end up in. You have a lack of motivation. You know what happens after you have a lack of motivation? You start becoming disorganized. You don't know where the bills are. Or when the bills show up, you're like, oh, dude, that stresses me out. I'm going to stick it in the drawer. And guess what? From the drawer, the bill goes, I'm still here. I'm not going away. I love you. I'm here to stay. You need to pay me. So watch, disorganization starts to happen. And you have a lack of motivation, you start getting disorganized because you're not organizing your life. So you start to lose where things are supposed to be or how things are supposed to go. And you're doing it on purpose because you could go after those things and organize them, but you don't. So here's what happens after you get disorganized. You start putting forth poor effort. Things are just too disorganized in this house. I give up cleaning this house. I give up cleaning that closet. I give up at my work because things are just too disorganized. So you have a poor effort. Well, guess what happens once you have poor effort? You have insufficient results. You have results in your life that you don't like. Like I started cleaning that thing, but it was just too hard. Or I started doing this thing, and so the results aren't there. It's not rewarding. So you know what happens next? I start blaming other people. You know how much better my life would be if XYZ was happening in my life? It's the boss's fault. It's my dad's fault because he wasn't there. And my mom treated me like this, and so blah, 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 blah. We live in a blame culture where it's always somebody else's fault. Oh, if the pastor would have been nicer to me, then it would have been better, or blah, blah, blah. Listen to what I'm saying. Take responsibility for yourself. It's nobody else's fault if you wreck your own life. Stop blaming other people. I'm not saying people haven't done stuff in your life. They have, and done stuff in my life too. But guess what? God doesn't expect you when stuff happens to you to just lay down and say, I quit life. Because part of being a man or a woman of God is fighting through difficulty and becoming everything you've been created to be. And that doesn't happen when you quit. Amen. So look at this. We start blaming other people, and guess what that leads to? Inactivity. I'm gonna sit on the house, I'm gonna sit on the couch and eat chips and smoke this bong and call it a day. It's legal now in California, so I got every excuse to do this. And because if my boss wouldn't have been such a jerk, I'd still have a job. So I'm gonna sit here and snap on this tube and everything's gonna be great. Well, guess what happens? It's literally the classic thing of like being a pothead. You start getting in the cycle of like, I don't wanna work. I'm too tired to work. I'm just lethargic and blah, but where's the chips? Oh, you can't afford chips anymore because you haven't gone to work. Look at this. Then here's what happens. We still have energy, but we're not applying it to industry. You know what happens to our energy? We go after our hobbies. And we put our energy into hobbies that don't pay us. So we still got energy like, I want to go do something, but I don't want to go to work. So what should I do? I'm going to go after my hobbies. And it's a false sense that our hobbies are paying us back with industry. And they're not. They're not paying us back with anything. It's just entertainment. Entertainment is not the same as industry. Being industrious with yourself. So look what happens next. Then you have life pressures. Then the bills are calling from the drawer. And you're like, dude, I can't even afford lemons for the kids to chew on. What am I gonna do? And guess what happens? After life pressures, then stress happens. And once you feel stress, you know what you do? If you don't have a place to get rid of that stress with a job, addiction happens. Then you start going to methamphetamines because you want to stay, because you feel like a loser and you want to stay awake for days fixing your bike so you feel like you're doing something constructive, right? And so you get in the cycle of it. That's how addiction happens in our lives. I'm going to drink during the day. I'm going to drink in the afternoons. I'm just going to try to forget my problems and bathe my brain in chemicals. So watch. After you have stress, you go, how can I relieve this stress? I'm going to go to addiction. And then you end up with lack of motivation again. And then it all starts again. Then you're disorganized because you're a pothead or whatever, and then it just continually goes like that. So watch, if you see yourself in this cycle of laziness, identify it and go, I'm gonna go after that and fix it. I'm gonna stop being disorganized. I'm gonna organize my life. I'm gonna go after my bills. I'm gonna be responsible. I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm gonna call my debtors and go, blah, 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 how can we fix this? Go after your stresses. Don't try to numb them. Go after them because they're not going away, so go handle them. That'll keep you from becoming lazy. Because then you give up after a while and you go, I just give up, I want the government to do stuff for me. And that's that's not the way to live your life when God gives you the ability to go handle it. God expects a return on the investment he put in you. So don't underachieve. How do I want to be? Lazy. But what does God expect of me? What does Jesus call me to practice? Industriousness. Industriousness. God has built humans to find satisfaction and self-worth in being industrious and working to better their lives and of those around them. Look at Ecclesiastes 3:12 and 13 says this. I perceive that there is nothing better for them, humanity, me and you, than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his what? Toil. God has built you to find pleasure in working. You should find pleasure in all your toil. This is God's gift to man. God's gift to mankind is that you find pleasure in the work that you do. There's no pleasure in laziness. There's only pleasure in getting things done. Entertainment is not work. Entertainment should be part of your rest. Work is not designed to just bless the worker, but others as well. As God has tied survival to labor, humans are built to work. So the what is less important than the why. Health, intelligence, and opportunity are all gifts from God to be used to glorify him. And here's the key, ready? Don't work to make a living, work to make a life. If you're just working to make money and you're like, I'm gonna work 80 hours, I'm gonna work myself into the grave, you've totally missed the point of living. You work to make enough money so that you can rest correctly and you can serve your wife and you can serve your husband and you can serve your kids and you can serve the church and you can give liberally because you worked hard and you feel satisfaction in life because you've used everything that God's given you for the glory of God and the betterment of others. Amen. That's the best life you can live. The best life is not somebody pay my stuff. The best life is what can I give to God so that I can glorify him and stop being selfish. Selfishness will eat you alive. It'll make you depressed because you're not built to be self-oriented. You're built to be God-oriented. Here's a principle. Every occupation and season of life, teen job to retirement, is a gift from God to make the most of life. Look at Ben Franklin. Here's Ben Franklin. They actually found in Ben Franklin's diary how he went about his day. So here's one of the fathers of our country. Here's how he laid out his day. So look at this. He's getting up at like the crack of 4:30 when some of your teenagers are up at like the crack of noon, right? So Ben Franklin is like at 5 o'clock, 4:30, he gets up. And look, here's the question he asked every day. I don't think Ben Franklin was a Christian. I think he was a deist. So I don't think he had a real relationship with God. But all these are biblical principles. And I want you to see how you should lay out your day if this is an area that you struggle in. The morning question, every day you should get up and say, what good should I get done this day? How should you lay out your day? Write it all down. Don't have it jumbled in your head. Write down the things you're going to get done today. Or write it down the previous day for what you want to get done the next day. That way you're not just wishing things will get done or hoping things will get done. You actually have a plan for getting things done. He would get up, he would take a shower, wash, and address powerful goodness. So that was his kind of way of saying, I acknowledge there's God in my life. I would contrive the day's business, which is mean I would figure out what I need to get done that day and take the resolution of the day. Here's the thing that he would do is listen, you can always make an excuse why things didn't get done. But believers in God should not be excuse makers. They should be action takers. So when you have something on your list to get done for that day, you strive to get all of those things done. You don't make excuses for them. You make results. Some things you can't get done during the day. Something will come up and whatever. If it's outside your ability, then have to put it off for a different day. But the point is, make a resolution. And here's what he would do. He would work from about 8:30 or 8 o'clock till noon, and then he'd read, which is weird on your break, but he'd read, he'd overlook everything that he needed to get done, and he would eat. And so from after eating to about 5:30 or 6, so homeboy is working a solid 10-hour day. He would say this once he got home. I'd put things in their places so he was organized. He didn't allow chaos in his life. And he would eat some supper. He would listen to some hip hop, some music. He would have a diversion or conversation. You know what's interesting about this? Is he waited until he got home to have conversation. Many of us men go, I'm going to have to get home. I don't want to talk to my wife or whatever. Like, stereotypically wives are like, I got 10,000 words left I need to speak to somebody, and it's going to be you, husband. Husbands go home like, dude, I just burned 10,000 words like 4 hours ago. I'm cooked. But either way, whatever it is, understand that you'll waste your whole life with your thumbs or with a mouse rather than getting things done. You'd be amazed how much time you waste if you were to just put your phone away and get offline and actually do something that benefits yourself or your family or the church or God. He saved all of his talking, his social time until he got home. And many of us spend our work hours socializing. And then about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, he asked this question, what good have I done today? And that's good. You know what you need to do? Let me help you. Organize your life. Get your bills in order. Don't run from them. Go after them. Organize your life. If you don't have a job, go get a job. And you're like, here's where laziness comes in. Oh man, I already filled out that job. You fill out how many jobs? Oh, I already filled out that one application. And laziness says this, oh man, I already did it. Industriousness says, I'm not going to stop until God answers that prayer. Industriousness says, I'm not going to stop until God blesses me in that area. So go fill out job applications till you get a job. It's better to make minimum wage and see what God will do with hard work than it is to sit at home and go, I want somebody else to take care of me. Because that's underachieving with God's gifts to you. So break that cycle of laziness and selfishness in your own life. You know the bulletins you got today that had the stuff inside of them? You know, we got elderly people in this church who literally don't have limbs that come and stuff these bulletins every week. Did you know that Jesus doesn't stuff those bulletins every week? It's actual people like me and you. And you know what? Every week, some of the seniors of our church, some of them literally don't have limbs, will come into the office and they'll sit around a table and they will stuff these bulletins to bless you. And here's the reason I say that. You can always make an excuse why things can't get done. You can always make an excuse why it's somebody else's job. But here's the thing. You have to stop making excuses and start making results. You will feel satisfaction that your life matters, and you will glorify God. And guess what? The blessing of God comes to those who work hard. The blessing of God is restrained from those who expect other people to do work for them. Industriousness does not mean living to work, but rather working to live for God, whether paid or not. So you might be a stay-at-home mom, or you might be a housewife or whatever, and you're like, hey, I don't make any money. This talk is not about making money. It's about using what you have for the glory of God. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, your house shouldn't be chaos. If I come visit you, I shouldn't be tripping over pizza boxes and sitting in cat urine or whatever. Okay? Because I'll find that cat, boy. That'll be messed up. So here's the thing. Wherever you work, everything is labor. Whether you get paid or not isn't the issue. The issue is, what am I doing with what I've got? And I'm not talking about working yourself to death. What I'm talking about is doing work so that God can bless you, so that everything God gives you is returned back to him. And here it is. How can I go and be this week? Recognize temptations in your life to waste your abilities, time, and talents. Stop the cycle in your life of entertained escapism. Stop looking for Facebook to fill your time and Twitter to fill your time. Stop looking for other people to fill your time. Fill your time with industry. Help other people. Help other people. Whether you're getting paid or not, do something that matters to the kingdom of God. Get off social media, TV, video games, books. And I always poke fun at video games, but hey, some of us read books and we live in another world. Some of us need to close a book and do something in the real world. And here's the last thing I leave you. Get out of fantasy and do something in reality. We live in a world where it's okay to live in fantasy. For God, he wants you to use you so he can bless you in reality. So guess what? This week, I got a card for us. Last week it was about peacefulness, and here's your trading card for this week. Industriousness. So as we take communion, these cards will be up on the stage. And so if you struggle in this area, tape it to the front of your phone. So you're like, I can't see what I'm doing. Exactly. Put it over your mouse or whatever at home, and as you go, okay, I'll go get a job. Let this be your card for this week, is industriousness. Let us all work. We don't work to earn God's favor, but we work so that God is glorified through us with the gifts he's given us. That's the point of industriousness.